Well, good morning. This is Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. So proud to be with you today. We're going to look this morning in the book of Leviticus. In the book of Leviticus, we're going to talk about the redemption of man, fallen man, who fell in to the sin that the devil brought upon this natural earth that God created for man. Now you remember, as we've talked before, God created this earth for man. He didn't create it for himself to live on, but he created it for man to live on. Yet, God wanted to come and dwell at times on this earth with man in the peace of righteousness. Well, when you break righteousness, you break peace. The minute righteousness is broke, peace is broke. And God said, "My peace I leave with you. My peace I give unto you, and my peace I leave with you." Peace is what man has been seeking for ever since the Garden of Eden. Ever since the fall, man has been seeking for that which he cannot find this side of the shed blood of Jesus Christ. Now, the book of Leviticus is a book that is the recognition of sin. And when you start reading Leviticus, you begin to see that sin was recognized by God, needed to be recognized by man. And then the revelation of the nature of sin. What is the revelation of the nature of sin? The revelation of the nature of sin is that it separates man and God. That's what sin does. It separates man and God. It separates the two. When God created man, he created man to fellowship with him. To fellowship with him. And the fact of the recognition of sin is that there's only one way God made a way to cover sin in the Old Testament. Now he's done away with sin in the soul of man in the New Testament. But in the Old Testament, he covered sin by the blood, shedding of the blood of bulls and goats. It started out with an offering. An offering. What did God do in the Garden of Eden? Adam and Eve had sinned, and God clothed them with the skin of an animal. In order to clothe them with the skin of an animal, blood had to be shed. So God shed the blood of a little lamb or an animal and clothed Adam and Eve. We have heard the story that some evangelists and preachers tell, that the picture would be of Eve standing there, and she has her little lamb in her arm, and she that's her little pet lamb, and she really loves that little lamb. But she sinned, and that lamb had to give his life up for Mary. The blood had to be shed for for Eve. And so the blood was shed, and God clothed Adam and Eve fleshly. Now they were clothed before they sinned with the righteousness of God. The righteousness of God is perfect with no sin. If you were covered by it now, completely by the righteousness of God, you would have no clothes on, and you would not know the difference or see the difference any more than two little children, a boy and a girl, stuck in a bathtub at 2 years old. And they're ignorant of sin and until a certain age. Now, there was an offering to be made. But that offering couldn't be made by just anybody. It took an appointed person to make that offering. And the appointed person in the book of Leviticus was called a priest. Now this priest would make up an offering for the people. And he would have a whole group of the tribe of Levi out there that would prepare the offering. And there was a way set up in order to do that. And they had to follow the directions and follow the rules in order for it to be done properly. And then after the priest came the people. The people came, and they came to the tabernacle in the wilderness, which was built according to the specifications that Moses brought from God when he came down off the mountain with the 10 Commandments. People seem to read the Bible and stop there. Did you know that God gave Moses the total direction of how to build the tabernacle on the mountain when he gave him the 10 Commandments? He also gave him the instructions to build the tabernacle. Did you know that the tabernacle was as complex as the Empire State Building? If you'll study it, and you'll study, you think that in this modern day and age today that we've accomplished something. I'd like to see anybody, I don't care who it is, even with a computer, build that tabernacle today. Now, Benny Hinn put a thing out a few years ago. I wished I could find it. I had that tape, and I would like to find it again. But he did put a simulation out of how the tabernacle was built. It was thousands of pieces, and it had to be built where it was mobile, and not mobile by vehicle or motor or machinery or anything, but that men could carry it from place to place. In 40 years, if I'm not mistaken, in 40 years they moved the tabernacle 39 times. I may be wrong on that. And I'll tell you what you do. If you know better, let me know. And if you don't know better, research it. And that way there you will learn about it. And make sure that Brother Peter's correct. Just don't take my word for it. It's been a long time since I studied that. The feast. The feast were something that God was interested in. When did you have a feast? You had a feast when you were made clean. What did a feast represent? A feast represented a happy time, a time of deliverance. When would you have a feast? It used to be that you'd have a feast maybe 3 times a year. You'd have a little feast on your birthday, and then you'd have a little feast of Christmas Day, and then you'd have a little feast at Easter. Or Thanksgiving. So there would be maybe 3 or 4 feasts a year that the average man would partake in. But God said after the sacrifice, that is the important thing, then have a feast. There was more than one reason for that. Did you know that those folks had to eat that food? God didn't waste that food. It did not burn up, completely up. The food that was put on the altar was also used to eat. It was sacrificed to God, it was clean, and then it could be eaten. And it was food for the people. God had more than one plan in redemption. He had planned for the whole man. His body, soul, and spirit. Man is triune. He is body, soul, and spirit.